It is time for us to speak out, to resist, and to protect those freedoms that we hold dear, that I myself raised my hand and said I will protect and defend. The time for complacency is done. The time for action is right now. I swore my oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Hello, 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 namaste, and welcome to my witchlings and new viewers alike. Don't mind me, I have lipstick on my fingers that I'm trying to clean off. All right, now, for those of you who do not know me, I am Di the Yoga Witch, and among other things, I am not only a yoga instructor and a practicing witch of 30 plus years, but I am also a service-connected disabled Navy veteran, and hence the Bitchin witch, angry veteran rants. Okay. Apparently, I need to had to fix communications betwixt me and the man behind the curtain. All right. It has been a week, hasn't it? All right. Let's see. My normal stuff here. I do my angry veteran rants on Saturday nights, and Monday through Saturday, I do my daily divination self-care. Saturdays, I have a slightly tweaked version, and then I do this. Sunday nights, or Sunday afternoons, I have coffee and cues with the Yoga Witch. We just kind of chit-chat and BS about whatever. I answer questions in the chat. You know the drill there. And then Thursday evenings, I have my podcast where I talk about witchy stuff. I talk about yoga stuff. And then Friday nights, I lead a guided meditation or yoga nidra asana. So, that is me. Oh my God, my hair is horrific today. My phone is apparently still making noises. I am sorry about that, y'all. Oh, I hit the wrong button. All right. All right. So, we have some fun stuff to talk about tonight, don't we? Ooh. Let's see. We're going to cover the fact that a Cornell University student was told to surrender to ICE so that they could start the process of deporting him. We are going to discuss the deportations and the act, or more, well, the executive order that was signed authorizing these deportations, and the act that the fascist Cheeto used to authorize this executive order and the deportations. So, going to take a sip. I'm not drinking coffee tonight. Are we shocked? I'm shocked. It's also not Dr. Pepper. All right. let's get going. So, before we go any further, do the like, share, subscribe thing, hit the bell so that you guys know I am doing stuff. And it gets interesting, trust me. All right, my friends, we have the story of Momodou Tal, a student at Cornell University. The DOJ has told a Cornell University student who is suing Trump to surrender to ICE. Momodou Tal, who is a PhD student who holds dual citizenship with the UK and Gambia, helped lead protests over the Israel-Hamas war at Cornell and has challenged the Trump administration's executive orders to, quote, combat anti-Semitism on college campuses and expel foreign nationals, the administration says pose a national security threat by filing a lawsuit to block the enforcement of those orders. Oh, so to pretty much summarize what I just said, Mr. Tal has been told to report to ICE because he and two other students are suing the government right now. So, Mr. Tal has recently received an email from a DOJ lawyer informing him that the government intended to serve him with a notice to appear, which is the first step of the deportation process, and an invitation to surrender to ICE. Interestingly, it does not tell him when he needs to do this. It simply says at a convenient time. All right, so Mr. Tal and his two co-plaintiffs, who are fellow Cornell students who happen to be U.S. citizens, argue that the executive orders violate the free speech rights of international students and staff who express support for Palestinians in Gaza via protest or otherwise. The executive orders that he has signed, oh dear goddess, basically saying that they are national security threats. So, one of his lawyers, Mr. Eric Lee, told NBC News that in the days leading up to the email he received, and just a few days after filing this lawsuit, unidentified authorities showed up outside Mr. Tal's apartment building and started asking his neighbors about him. The building staff then asked them to leave. In his court filing, Lee, the lawyer, says, quote, it is not yet clear what grounds for removal the government alleges exist here. Mr. Tal has been living in the States and has been admitted into the country many times. So what changed? The quote, the only changes between Mr. Tal's last admission and now are the executive orders and the initiation of this legal action challenging them. It is plain that the government's effort to serve and detain Mr. Tal are in reaction to this litigation. Lawyers at the so-called Justice Department made this request to his attorneys within hours of us having asked the court to stop them from doing precisely that, Mr. Lee continued. And then a quote from Mr. Tal, only in a dictatorship can the leader jail and banish political opponents for criticizing his administration. He wrote this in a statement that accompanied his lawsuit. There is a current wider effort by the administration to shove their ideals into the affairs of private colleges and universities. Basically, the fascist Cheeto wants to be able to tell private schools what they can and cannot do, and he is not liking being told he can't do that. Are we surprised? Look at what happened to Mahmoud Khalil earlier this month, who, by the way, had his court appearance today, I believe. He is a Columbia University graduate student who also led protests over the Israel-Hamas war. He was deported, arrested in front of his heavily pregnant wife, and then nobody knew where he was for I don't remember how long. At some point, he ended up in Louisiana from Columbia, which I believe is in New York. The fascist Cheeto has cited an obscure national security clause in the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 to justify doing this to the man. We have a doctor and professor from Brown who was deported for attending the funeral or after attending the funeral of Hassan Nasrallah, a graduate student teaching at Georgetown, because his wife is of Palestinian descent, and more. These are all people who have been either detained, refused entrance into the country, or arrested for daring to not bow and kiss the toes of the current administration. This administration has also gone after the schools themselves for allowing the protests on campus. Columbia University has been stripped of $400 million in federal grants because of the allowed protests. You know, the students who were exercising their First Amendment right to gather and free speech. And then University of Pennsylvania is losing $175 million for allowing a single transgender woman to compete on their swim team. One transgender woman. Because, as we discussed in a previous rant, there are less than 10 transgender athletes in the entire country at collegiate level. So, with that, let's move on to something more entertaining, and I say that with all the sarcasm possible here. Wasn't Cheeto Man just saying the other day how Biden's pardons for his families and others weren't valid because an auto pen was used? Well, hey, have I got some hypocrisy and some more double standards for ya. The Mango Mussolini is now claiming that the order invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport the Venezuelan gang members was not signed by him. Quote, I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it, he said Friday. Other people handled it. But yet it shows his signature and by the President of the United States of America at the bottom. If he didn't sign it, then it was done with an auto pen, wasn't it? Oh, and he's admitted to using one himself, but those are still valid. Naturally, the White House is doing some CYA and backtracking by putting out a statement that said he, quote, was obviously referring to the original Alien Enemies Act that was signed back in 1798, unquote. Ah, of course that's what he was referring to. He's not a hypocrite that would claim that things signed by AutoPen for other presidents aren't valid, while the ones bearing his name are, right? I can't even say that with a straight frockin' face. Now Trumpty Dumpty is in a verbal sparring match with Judge James Boasberg, who issued a 2-week halt on deportations and called the invocation of the act, quote, incredibly troublesome, and said the administration, quote, signed in the dark so as to, again, quote, get detainees out of the country before a suit is filed. At this point, we all know that the administration chose to ignore his order, and the judge called him out on it, which led to a temper tantrum via Truth Social, where Tiny Hands McGee called the judge a, quote, radical left lunatic and suggested he be impeached, with 3 exclamation points, all caps. This particular tantrum led to a rare statement from Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts, who slapped the orange toddler's demands for impeachment down, saying that it is, quote, not an appropriate response. Go Justice Roberts, who, by the way, very rarely makes public statements. Of course, the tangerine tantrum thrower couldn't own up to his own actions, so he threw Secretary of State Marco Rubio under the bus for this. Direct quote, he wanted the Venezuelan migrants out, and we go along with that. We want to get criminals out of our country, is what he told reporters that evening. Now, what is the Alien Enemies Act? Well, simply put, the act allows non-citizens to be deported without the opportunity to go before an immigration or federal court judge in times of war. Since its inception, the act has been used a whopping 3 times: the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. The act was the legal rationale for mass internments in the U.S. of people of German, Italian, and especially Japanese ancestry, including those with U.S. citizenship. I'm going to throw a side note in here. If anyone is interested in a personal experience with the internment camps here in the United States, please do go look up George Takei's story about it. I believe the man even wrote a freaking Broadway musical about it. But I digress. The Brennan Center for Justice put out a statement saying, quote, the Alien Enemies Act may be used only during declared wars or armed attacks on the United States by foreign governments. The president has falsely proclaimed an invasion and predatory incursion to use a law written for wartime for peacetime immigration enforcement. Let me re-say that. He is using a law that was written for wartime use for peacetime immigration enforcement. So, basically, he is showing just how forking racist he and his entire administration is. Hopefully next week, hopefully next week, we can discuss something financial or something that is aggravating but not caused or exacerbated by the fascist Cheeto. I am currently not holding my forking breath because that man and his followers say that not only is he the greatest president we've had to date, but all of these changes he's making are for good. What are you questioning, Juice WRLD? You're saying what? What are you asking what about? I will happily explain anything I have talked about further. I don't think they're here anymore. Okay. So yeah, they're saying that the changes he's making are for the better. And I haven't even touched on the fact that one of his cabinet said that the only people who are going to complain about not getting their Social Security checks are the fraudsters. How many people do you know that receive Social Security that depend on that Social Security to pay their housing? And can't wait a month for it. Oops, that was a mistake. You were supposed to get it, so we'll pay you double next month. And then, yeah, tax double on it. He is gearing up to sign an executive order dismantling the Department of Education, which was last week's rant. I am rather furious about that for so many reasons. And I just, I'm at a loss, you guys. I really am. Eh. I'm frustrated. I'm confused. That is one of the biggest things right now. I am so confused as to how people can genuinely think that what is going on is going to better our country. I also didn't touch on the fact that I can't remember the details, but Social Security Administration is locking everybody in the building out of their IT because a federal judge said that anyone affiliated with Doge cannot have any access to their systems without going through all of the proper training that they are required for, privacy and how to handle this information and all of that shiz. There is so much going on that I just... Please, make it make sense. I understand that they're essentially flooding the zone so that there is so much chaos that we can't see everything or notice everything that's happening, so they're going to be able to sneak some really nasty shit in. But and the amount of stuff that they are just erasing from our history. Starting with the Enola Gay. I mean, come on. The Navajo Code Talkers. The Navajo Code Talkers, the Black Medal of Honor recipient, Civil War nurses. Jackie Robinson's service was erased, and he was accused of being a DEI hire. Something I'm going to point out. As a woman veteran, this has actually gotten me respect from some Vietnam vets. Women are not drafted, which means we are not DEI hires. We voluntarily joined the service. And guess what? We have to get the same scores on the same evaluations as the men, other than PT. I will give that. But other than that, women have to meet the same forking standards as the men. So, I don't get it. But anyway, but the fact that I volunteered to join the military at 17 got me a ton of respect from some Vietnam vets because they were drafted. But anyway, the DEI thing is something that just grinds my gears. There is no clutch. Anyway, people piss me off. People piss me off, and I'm just... And with that, my witchlings, I am going to call it a night. Because everything that is going on out there in the world just has me forking exhausted. So, do me a favor. Go out there. Spread love. Spread joy. And especially kindness right now. There is so much darkness and hate out there already. Please be the light for someone else. Tell your loved ones, be they human, scaly, feathered, or furry, that you love them, because you never know how long they're going to be here. And trust me, from experience, that 2 a.m. phone call sucks. And remember, you are loved, you are wanted, you are needed, and you do have a purpose in this life, and you're not a DEI hire. I'll see you guys later.